Welcome to the QB Room, sponsored by Happy Dad. I'm Jordan Palmer, coach quarterbacks for a living. Apparently talk on here for a living too, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Now, what's up? I'm Kyle Allen with the Buffalo Bills, and you guys really liked our film breakdown from the Super Bowl. We love doing film breakdowns, so it's draft season, one of the best quarterback drafts in a long time.
Like you said, I do this for a living, and helping guys transition from amateur to pro, helping guys go from one league to the other. I kind of always say, like, college and NFL football are kind of two different sports. Completely. There are different rules. There are different things. The field is different. The ball is there's enough different where you got to be prepared to do something that you technically haven't done before. So that criteria starts with, I think, three things. And when I say these are three things that are important, these are three things that I build draft training around to help support for these guys that get drafted high and play right away. The first one is see the board. When I say see the board, you have to understand your offense well enough to where understand where we're trying to go with the ball, and understand how coverage is going to dictate that. You're not going to understand everything about the offense, but you need to understand that. On pressure situations, what they're bringing, what they're not, what they're bluffing out into, you have to understand your offense well enough to know what your plan is versus pressure. You're not going to know everything, but you got to know that. And then defensively, you have to understand personnel. You go from college to pro, everybody's awesome. Okay, but who can we exploit? Who can we attack? Who does get out of position? So I'm not going to understand everything, but we got to understand that. So the first one is you got to see the board. The second one is you have to be able to create.
Especially in today's game. This
whole game is about creating time and space. And it's why some guys can run a 5 flat, but Tony Romo, for example, I don't know what he ran in the 40, but it was probably real slow, and it ended up not mattering because he was a magician back there. He could create time and space. And Drew Brees had his way of creating time and space. So you have to be able to create by yourself time because, again, you're not going to see every pressure. You're not going to see everything. You're a rookie. They double down on disguises and make it really confusing. So when you drop back and you go, oh, shit, you got to be able to do something then. You can't just chuck it away. So the third one is decisive. And as a quarterback, yeah, you got to be a great decision maker, all that. So, but where you have to make decisions is you're not going to understand all the levels of the NFL game. You're a rookie, but you have to understand situationally, and you have to learn quick situationally when I cannot force this one in there, when I need to force this one in there, when that look doesn't look right. I'm getting to my check down right now. That guy's floating. I think I can get in there. No, you need to know that you can get in there. And so the decisiveness when it comes to where to go with the ball and when to let that thing go. And I'm putting game management, clock management, situational football awareness, 2nd and 20, get a piece back, for a 2-minute drill, just get the first down. All those types of things that we learned as a rookie, you got to be able to process it quick enough to get rolled.
All right. So when we look at these plays that we're going to break down, I think all these plays that we tried to find of Caleb and of the other two generational talents we talked about, Trevor Lawrence and Andrew Luck, we try to find plays that fit in these categories. And especially in Caleb's game, I think when we watch Caleb on TV and we see him on SportsCenter, it's all the, make a ton of people miss and throw it downfield for a touchdown, which is amazing, but it's not going to happen as much in the league, right? Yeah. So that falls into certain categories. So we wanted to show you plays from all these guys that are reasons why they had success earlier in their careers, especially their rookie years. So we're going to roll this first one of Caleb against Arizona State. And we wanted to throw one in here that was just quintessential Caleb. If you want to run it, it's what he does. It's what not many people have ever done. I think the last person I saw do it was Johnny Manziel, but Caleb is just a whole nother level. You see him move in the pocket. He sees space so well. This is the create part of the game. And then he keeps his eyes downfield better than I think anyone I've seen in a long time. He's always looking to create. He's looking to move off his spot, find space, and throw it downfield. He's not looking to keep his eyes down and run, which a lot of guys do. Once the pocket collapses, their eyes go straight down and run.
All right, so I can watch this play and make an argument that, like, this all translates to the league. This is unbelievable. Change of direction. 2 hands on the ball the entire time until here. Vertical finds the guy. So there's an element and there's a conversation I have with rookies all the time, or just about the game and the evolution of your game. And so as spectacular as this highlight is, that's a freaking dime. It's an unbelievable play. It's heads up. A handful of people can make it. We could say all those things. But there's an evolution that needs to happen when you go from college to pro. And if you go back to high school, and again, when we were talking about generational, where you said number one pick, but also like number one recruit, coming out. So like
Mm-hmm.
all the way through, right? So Caleb was also Elite 11 MVP and number one high school recruit in the country. So it's kind of like Trevor Lawrence's Adidas campaign, number one since day one.
Yep.
There's an evolution that has to happen. And when you're in high school and you become a 5-star and you go Elite 11 and you get all these accolades, now probably a ton of money, you're rewarded. The behavior that's rewarded is making plays, right? Your highlights is what goes viral. Highlights is what you send people, right? And so you're rewarded off of making plays, not taking the check down, not taking the hitch, not dumping it to the flat,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you get to college, you win a Heisman. You don't win a Heisman from taking the flat. You win a Heisman from making plays, right? Becoming a number one pick. A lot of it is based off of your ability and the ceiling and all those things that we hear. And so now look at this play through this lens, because when you get to the league, what you need to do, and I'm not saying that they haven't done it yet, I'm just saying you need to do a lot more of it, is learn how to just straight up put the ball in play and take what they give you. And so take a peek down here at the bottom, and as spectacular as this play was, my question is, did any of it need to happen when the hitch has a 9-yard cushion, a retreating corner, and a player that's getting held inside with 2 isolation routes? And so that's why I look at it and I go, unbelievable playmaking ability. And the evolution of his game is going to be off the first step, throwing that hitch and taking 6 yards on 1st and 10 on the fringe of the red zone. And so this is a perfect example. And they might've told him not to throw it to him. So I'm not judging this play, but those types of plays in the NFL right here,
that's open.
That's wide ass open. You know what I mean? Yeah, and so, and his eyes are starting left. I get it. But you scheme all week to get that up top.
Uh-huh.
I mean, fair?
Fair, 100% fair. And I'm taking that 100 times 100, but I'm not the creator that Caleb Williams is, though, too.
And so what happens is we want to see people get wide open or make a play. And what I see right here is 3 potential first downs, and instead, a SportsCenter top 10 college football player of the year.
Yeah, and then the difference in the league and in college football is all those guys rushing you are just as fast and just as athletic as you.
Yeah.
And that's what we go from the experience part. And that's why CJ Stroud, in my opinion, was such an anomaly, is because you usually learn those things by experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
You usually learn that by the second time you're trying to turn around and do a spin move out of the pocket, and you turn around and the DN's staring you down in the face and mows you down. That one hurts, and you don't really do it again. But this is what also makes him great. And he's adapted his game throughout his career. So it's all about adapting, like you said. It's all about becoming and evolving into that player, into the NFL, which is a different game, which is why the next clip that we show is why I think he's going to adapt and he's going to become a better player. So let's go from the top of this play, right? You see this play, it looks simple,
This is
right?
a snag, right?
Yeah, it looks boring. It looks simple. People have seen thousands of more Caleb Williams plays that are way cooler. But this, to me, excites me about Caleb Williams, right? So if you go from the beginning, go all the way back to the beginning, it looks pre-snap, right? They're on the 3-yard line. I don't know what down it is, but it looks like cover 0 pre-snap, right? So This is all about Caleb Williams processing, being decisive, and seeing the field, right? Where all these plays kind of fit into certain categories. This isn't about creating. This is about being decisive and seeing the field.
And right now, he knows he has a 5-man protection, and there's 7 people down here.
Exactly. So he knows he has issues, but look how calm he is when he snaps the ball. He knows where his answers are. So it's always about, when we talk about in the quarterback room, about, versus this protection, you do this, blah, blah, blah. Like, there's a bunch of different answers, but it's really about knowing your issues and knowing your answers and putting the ball in play. So here, go back to the beginning, snaps the ball. He sees that linebacker in the right gap jump out. He knows he's good, right? He gets his eyes to the right. He sees that linebacker that jumped out. He's going to say, is he going to take the snag or is he going to take the flat? The linebacker's wrong here. He overplays the snag. He runs to the flat. Caleb sits. He's on his back foot. He wakes and makes a quick decision, puts the ball in play. Bam, touchdown.
Yeah, if this is one of those hot potatoes, like I'm not really sure what I'm seeing right now, and I can't really tell if that guy came or not, all that stuff, like then you're throwing this to the flat.
100%.
And it's a 2-yard gain.
Or you're scrambling like he does sometimes. But what he's doing here, and is what's, in my opinion, is the hardest thing in the NFL right now, is when you transition to the league, is red zone play. Like, throwing the ball in the red zone is exponentially harder than throwing the ball in the field. And if he can make these quick decisions, see the field, put the ball in play, understand where guys are and where the ball needs to go like this is the transition that he needs to make to the NFL.
Yeah, totally agree. Again, this is a perfect example of not making a play, putting the ball in play and going through it. And it looks like, oh, he's wide open. It's an easy throw. Well, hopefully that was helpful to understand how many things you have to process just to be able to throw that little choice route right there. But it's processing and it's putting the ball in play, not going running or not doing it on the last play, which is run around and probably end up scoring a touchdown either way, to be honest.
Exactly. Yeah. I think there's a time and place for it, but I think like percentage wise, right? In college or in college, he's probably 40% making a play, 60% playing on schedule. I think in the NFL, depending on who you are and depending on how bad you want your body to feel after a Sunday, I think it's really 20% making a play and 80% just putting the ball in play, depending what athlete you are. And it's not, we don't want to take away from how special he is at doing those things, but I think there's a time and place for them.
Yeah. And honestly, you've seen Mahomes do this because if you go back through all the touchdowns that have been happening in the playoffs for the Chiefs, it's a lot of flat routes. It's a lot of stick routes. It's a lot of check downs. It's a lot of the slam flat on a naked number 4. It's a lot of scheming to find a high percentage throw. I go back to college when my roommate in college was a Spurs fan and the Spurs were rolling. They won the championship all the time. And it was like, he would watch every game. I'm like, I can't watch these guys. They have so many freaking layups and so many
it's so boring, but it's
bank
so
shots
good.
from 4 feet. But like, yeah, because their spacing and ball movement got really high percentage shots. And so I think the same thing of quarterback play. And that evolution has to happen at some point. Because like you said, depending on how your body feels, like you can't just make plays. All right, so here we are, 3rd and 3. This is overtime. It was one of 3 overtimes, I believe, in this game versus Arizona. Must-win situation. I know Arizona was good and rolling at the end, but Caleb Williams, defending Heisman, USC, like you can't lose Arizona at home, you know? So this is definitely a got to have it. And this is just a sick run, okay? Pulls it, stops the nickel, cuts inside, outruns the safety to a spot, breaks that tackle and 2 more tackles, and ends up on his feet. And this is just an example of like creating, right? So we already showed the one earlier where he runs around and drops a dime down the field. And that's could have pulled from a long list of those highlights that are readily available. And even though he only played like 2.5 years, but this does translate to the NFL. These aren't NFL guys trying to get him, but it doesn't matter. His vision, his ability to create as a runner down the field, he's probably not going to run a 40 at his pro day. I don't really care what his 40 is. I think Josh ran like 4.78 or something like that.
Yeah.
In Indy, he ain't ran 4.78 in games.
No, he's
irrelevant.
Safeties, yeah.
And so, does this translate, or is this a college thing? Like, no, he's going to be an elite runner, I think, next year in the league.
And it shows the willingness too. I think there's a lot of guys who can create with their legs and they can throw the ball downfield and do things, but it's the willingness, it's the competitiveness, it's what you see in Josh, it's what you see in Pat in late in games, it's what you see in Lamar Jackson. It's the willingness to go down there and create with your legs, and it makes it so much easier on offensive coordinators when they call a shitty play and their quarterback figures out a way to make it worth it with their legs, right?
Ironically, it's something Justin Fields has done a great job of in Chicago.
Justin Fields has been unbelievable for that, right? It's where the game is moving, right? Defenses are getting more complicated. Therefore, offensive has to simplify, and therefore you're not going to always have the perfect play like you used to. Peyton Manning and Tom Brady used to be able to get to the perfect play pre-snap every time because defenses were a little bit simpler. That was their game. They could check, they could get to it. Now today's game is, all right, here's the play. Let's make it work. How can you make it work? And there's a little bit more on the quarterback in that perspective. But the guys that are doing it well are the guys that are winning all the games and winning championships.
Yeah, that's a great point.
All right, so that was a bunch of examples of Caleb Williams being great, doing what he does best, and what we think is going to translate to him having success early in the NFL. And I could have shown 100 more clips of how awesome he is and all the different things, but I think for him to have success, it comes down to those traits and a bunch of other things, of course, situation-wise. But if he can master those things and learn early, like C.J. Stroud did and some other guys have done in the past, and like some of the other guys did that we're going to show you right now, Andrew Luck and Trevor Lawrence, it's gonna help his career a ton. But a lot of the times you're learning by fire, right? And I want to make sure that's known. Is C.J. Stroud is an anomaly. And there's other guys who have success early. They're anomalies, but learning by fire is normal. Peyton Manning is always the example. I think Aaron Rodgers early in his career too, but it's going to happen. And the biggest thing is, we talk about this all the time, is you just can't make the same mistake twice.
Yeah.
You got to learn from your mistakes quick. But so let's get into Andrew Luck right now. I think Andrew Luck probably was the biggest recruit, biggest prospect of all time until Trevor Lawrence.
He was kind of the bar, yeah.
Yeah, and he did a lot of these things early in his rookie year. So we pulled a little clips. These are some 2012 clips, by the way. We're deep in our bag right here. 2012 Andrew Luck rookie year tape. If you go back to the beginning here, so this falls into a couple categories here, and honestly, I think it falls into all three categories, in my opinion, right? The three categories is creating, being decisive, putting the ball in play, right? So Andrew Luck, this is end of half, 14 seconds left. It's 3rd and 3, right? So situation-wise right now, right? They have no timeouts, can't take a sack. The ball's in bounds. The half's over. So we're either throwing it out of bounds ball or we're putting one in the end zone, right?
And you're in field goal range.
And this is his second game he ever played.
Can't take a sack.
Exactly.
Right? Ball can't get complete inbounds if it's short of the goal line. And obviously can't turn it over and do something stupid with the ball.
Exactly. And this is Andrew Luck's second start ever. So he comes here, right? He sees the field. Minnesota's smart. They play cover 2. They want to keep everything inside. They want to keep it inside the numbers, inside the sidelines, tackle somebody in bounds. He moves in the pocket, dissects the coverage, figures out what they're doing, steps off his spot, puts the ball in play, throws a dime right before half. I mean, some guys have never done this in their careers. You know, this is just an unbelievable play from Andrew Luck.
Yeah. And it's the ability that when you say create time and space. Now, here's the concept. So this is not wide open from the jump. He's probably determining a route about right here that this guy can't get to this ball, right? It's Tampa Mike. He's just throwing it past him. I mean, the Mike's just kind of no man's land, sees Andrew leave, and then here comes Reggie Wayne, and he's just throwing it over him. This is unbelievable trust. And at the same time, again, look, here's what that's a good angle, actually. It's weird watching it from TV.
I know. So he's watching all
but like, here's what he sees. You know, this ball, the ball's right here. Reggie hasn't ran past the Mike linebacker yet. So he let that thing go when that linebacker's probably 8 or 10 yards deeper than Reggie Wayne, and he's still trusting he's going to get to that spot. And that's with one of the better safeties in the league coming off the hash, who was a young dude back then.
Yeah.
A young Harrison Smith.
And he's getting smoked, and he's probably had a total of 50 pass attempts in NFL regular season games at this point.
And when we talk about creating, sometimes this is all it is. We showed a crazy Caleb Williams highlight. How about just sliding to your right because homeboy in the middle is bull rushing your Jeff Saturday or whoever it is and buying time on that. So, I mean, that is, in my opinion, that is what creating mostly is in the NFL. 100%. You're creating space in the pocket, and there's not many times where you're going to be able to slide through a hole and get a bunch of yards. It's creating that extra half second to where I can get that ball off, and as he's throwing this, he's getting hit. Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into this click here. 4th and 10, down 5, last play of the game, 4 seconds left.
Yeah, so if you notice so far in our film breakdowns, we love situational football, right? I think situational football is the most interesting thing to break down. On Saturdays of every game week, we have a situation tape from guys around the league and every other team of guys who did it good and guys who fucked it up bad. And so situations are our favorite stuff. But this is a little later in the year. He's had some reps. This is fourth down, end of the game. And this is just creating, putting the ball in play, trusting it. And he's trying to go throw a fucking block there too, you know? But that's to win the game, right? And so just go back to the top.
What do you call this? Red 8? Is this like red zone quarters?
Yeah, it's just red zone quarters, and everyone just stand on the goal line. It just looks like crap.
It's like
right?
birds on a wire right here, and then these guys are all
like what's coach going to call that's going to look good here, you know?
Yeah.
But you look, he keeps his eyes downfield, right? It's 4 verts with a shallow. He steps up in the pocket. How many guys throw this ball to the shallow here, right? So many guys are trying to make a play, make it in the end zone. He trusts it.
So many guys are doing this, setting up and trying to throw the ball as hard as they can across the field.
Yeah. And for him to just step up and put it in play, and you know Andrew Luck, he's probably looking to go block 52 here.
100%.
But it's just the simple, right? It's the simple movements. It's the simple creation. He was some of the best pocket movement I've ever seen, and he gets up in there and he sees the board, right? You see that huge gap. He saw that gap. That's why he threw it to him. He sees the board, puts it in play. He's decisive. He gets it to him quick.
And he's smart enough to get it to a faster guy, even though he's super fast. Like, put it in the hands of a lot of guys are going to pump fake right there and run and get tackled on the 3.
Yeah. But it's just these things, right? It just all falls into these categories. And I think Andrew Luck did a really good job of it his rookie year. And he also learned by fire a lot by throwing a lot of interceptions, turning the ball over, taking a lot of big hits. And
he definitely saw the board. And you talked about the pocket movement side of things, and from a decisive standpoint, that was the Achilles heel. He threw a ton of picks, was able to wipe it off and move on, and also threw a ton of touchdowns and had a bunch of fourth quarter comebacks,
which is almost more impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, last clip.
Yeah, so this is why I wanted to show this clip. Is it's early in his career. This is his first game. You look at the score; they're getting blown out, right? But this is, in my opinion, your first game. You're getting blown out. How can I stay in the game? How can I be decisive? How can I trust what I'm doing? How can I get better in the game? And this is kind of a similar concept to the first clip we showed of Andrew Luck, right? This falls into the seeing the board and being decisive buckets. Mm-hmm. So we got max protection, right? We got 3 verticals here. Texans go cover 2. He sees it. He kind of gets back on his spot. He sees the safety inside too far, throws the whole shot for a 50-yard dime for a touchdown. This is a great view of it right here, right? He's got to make a move up in the pocket. Probably could have thrown it to either one of them. But
either of them.
But he made a decisive decision, threw a rope, put it on there, touchdown. And so it's those plays, right? When you see those plays, like I'm sure the coaches, they see those plays, it's encouraging, right? They say, like, if we can repeat these things, if you can trust yourself, see it, step up quick, 1 hitch, 2 hitch, ball out. And you see the guys who are having success early, it's the guys who are trusting themselves too. Yeah. I think all those buckets fall into trusting yourself too.
100%. And trusting what's around you. And this is not how this drop looks on air. So this is an example also of creating time and space. This is not what you do at the top of waggle. It's what you do at the top of the waggle if you got a defensive end coming at you.
100%.
The back foot hits the ground. That's not a hitch right there. That's a hard climb off essentially your 8th step because it's opening to the left. And being in position, know where number 1 is and getting it out. Trevor, I did like a piece of content on Bryce the other day, and I put Bryce in the same category as Trevor, where dumpster fire rookie year, walls are caving in, how many more weeks do we have left type of situation. And I said after Trevor's year that is going to have nothing to do with the second year. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not going to, I have no worries about his confidence. And is he wounded dog now? Is he like, there's certain dudes where you'd worry if they really deal with a lot of adversity early in their career. A lot of players. Trevor was one where you go, that's going to be a relevant year too. Bryce Young, I'd say the same thing. It's not going to, the team might not be better. I don't know. We'll see, but he's not going to be ruined heading into year 2. We're all good. And Trevor was a perfect example of that, because to have arguably the worst rookie year ever, and then, the biggest comeback in playoff history, and then they damn near beat the Chiefs in Kansas City. Just really string it together, man. And then build on it again this year is a perfect example of why you draft someone number 1 and why you have to have patience as a fan base, and why those 100%. Unrealistic expectations that I talked about in the beginning, if you're really a fan, you would be trying to not fan the flames on having unrealistic expectations, and you just be a little more patient, because it'd make it easier on the quarterback that you guys just picked. And this guy's an example. Caleb, again, if Caleb goes to a team and they're trash next year, it ain't going to matter going into year 2. They're going to be all
what
good.
Happens when you're the number 1 pick too. You're going to a trash team. There's a reason why they're the number 1 pick most of the time. But I agree. I think Trevor's a great example. I think there's a ton of guys who are great examples of expectations going into year 1. How do I fight through them? How do I stay level-headed? And how do I just stay within myself and trust myself? Yeah. I think it's just such a self-confidence thing and such a self-trust thing.
Yeah. So we're basically saying we both agree he's checking all 3 boxes right here. His ability to see the board. He was a roomie. He's been on our show before, Caleb. And I remember in the conversation we said, who did you watch when you went to SC? When you went to Oklahoma, who'd you watch to learn? Did you watch Jalen Hurts? Did you watch Baker Mayfield? Or did you watch Kyler Murray? You got 3 different amazing Heisman Trophy winning players. And he's like, yeah, I watch Baker because he can't do the physical things that the other 2 guys can do. I know I can do those things. I wanted to see a guy who plays in the system without the ability to run at the level that they did. And so, like, that's super smart. That's what a smart franchise quarterback would probably do, learning a system. And so seeing the board, he does currently, and whatever they ask him to do in the league, it's not going to be that complicated for him. He'll be straight. Being decisive, yes, we've seen it a ton. Ability to create, yeah. I mean, as much as anybody that I've seen coming into the draft. The biggest thing is going to be his evolution on going from being a nonstop playmaker to also being a guy who can put it in play. And then also, I think, simplifying his movement and mechanics. I think as he plays longer, he'll do that more, and you're going to see some great results out of him. You guys really liked, based off the viewership and comments, you guys really like the film breakdowns. We're down to do more. We're not going to break down this weekend's game because there isn't one. but there's all sorts of stuff we can do. We're flirting with the idea of doing maybe some free agency stuff and maybe some draft guys. And also we've got some pretty cool event coming up next week. But follow us on social. We'll be kind of talking more about what's going on. Some of the best quarterbacks in the world are going to be coming and sitting down with us and kicking it at an amazing event next weekend. And so we got some fun stuff this off season. We got your bachelor party this weekend. I'm fired up.
Yeah, I do. I just came back from one too. So sorry about my voice and my tan.
Yeah. We had somebody else's, but this weekend's Kyle's big golf trip. Fired up. And then, we got a bunch of stuff this off season. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for Happy Dad and Prize Picks for coming alongside us. And if you want more stuff, it's the off season. Let us know in the comment section. Obviously, share this with your friends and all that. But we appreciate you tuning in if you're still watching, and we'll see you here in the next episode.